Hello there, everybody. Very welcome to everyone. We're going to start in about a minute. Numbers are coming up very nicely,
Very nicely.
Alison.
Keen interest. Keen
Yes.
interest.
Well, it's extremely hot topic, isn't it? Budget this time round.
It is a hot topic because I think we now know, don't we, that it is a budget that's going to stay with us for quite a long time, in terms of its impact as well.
Well, it's 1:30 on the dot. So,
Okay.
shall we get to going?
Well, this one for timing, Laura.
Well, I am. We've actually got a really nice mix of people and some new people. So I thought we could introduce ourselves. Some of you may have seen and heard of us before, but I know there are some new faces. So I thought let's start with that. Why don't you start?
Yeah. So I'm Alison, founder of Kokoro. So I've been working in Insight for absolutely years, but about five and a half, so 5 and 3/4 years ago, started this study with you, Laura, where we basically track what the nation are feeling, thinking, and doing every single week.
Yes, absolutely. I'm Laura. We don't always dress the same, which this picture does prove, but we realised when we got into it, we were dressed the same. I'm Laura. I'm a researcher. I've worked at Kokoro for 15 years, and as Alison says, almost 6 years ago now, started this study together. And it's been a real privilege to understand every twist and turn in the nation over sort of such a turbulent kind of time, I think.
Yeah, I'm somebody who likes a bit of control, so I like the fact that I know what is going on. Laura, there are two sides of our business, though,
Mhm.
aren't there? There's the subscription side of our business, the bit that we founded 5.5 years ago. We're always looking, we believe we're kind of looking at the next 18 months, what is emerging and how brands should respond to it. The other side of our business kind of takes some of that kind of know-how about where we're going and kind of really deep dives into what action should be taken by an
Yeah.
individual brand.
Absolutely, answering kind of client bespoke briefs. Today, everything you're going to see from us is from the left-hand side, the telescope side of things. 5.5 years ago, really close to 6 years now, we started this study. We speak to 2,000 people every single week. It's a different 2,000 people every single week, and we've got a qualitative arm of it as well, which I absolutely love, where we speak to 50 households. That's longitudinal, so it really is a qual researcher's dream. So that's the nuts
Yeah,
and
I think
bolts of
it's a
it.
qual and quantitative
Oh,
research
it
is
is.
really,
Yeah, it's
isn't it?
enormous base size.
Yeah.
Enormous base size. I was talking to one of our clients who was digging into something, and they almost kind of can't believe the base size you can kind of.
It's so rich, isn't it? And we'll show go through here, you
Mm,
can just see inflection points so clearly
mm.
with this kind of information. But
Right.
Laura, take a step back. Why do we really exist and what do we do to help brands?
Our kind of big focus, our big kind of reason for kind of getting up, I guess, is to help people absolutely kind of close this empathy gap within businesses. There's a lot of talk about customer centricity. There are a lot of prizes on the table when you look at it, whether that's kind of hard commercials or just kind of absolutely how it feels to kind of turn up at work and what your staff retention and things can be like, which of course commercial as well. Big promises. The actual reality is so far adrift of where it can be. So few businesses can actually say we are genuinely consumer obsessed. Whether you look at our own metrics, which is a sample of kind of, insight marketing, customer focused people, or you look at external studies, there's a lot of space to be filling in.
There really is, isn't it? That's like 1 in 10, 1 in 5
Mm,
businesses achieve customer centricity, yet the rewards are absolutely enormous if you
mhm,
do. So today we're going to take a look at the response the nation has had to the budget,
mhm.
which is now 2 days old. The headline is Deferred Pain, Deferred Progress. Now, you can trick that off the tongue. It doesn't sound too bad, does it? And we'll come on to look at some ways it's not too bad, but it's sort of the opposite of what humans really want to do is work hard today for a better tomorrow. That's not what this feels like. It's a very odd sensation,
Mm,
and we'll run through that
yeah.
as we go. Before we look at the actual response to the budget, Laura, I think we should take a little bit of a step back, shouldn't we, and just see where the budget sort of fits into the general kind of mood, psyche, behaviours of the nation. So, left-hand side, we're tracking net optimism there. We've showed 3 years worth before COVID came along. It was very solid in the mid 40s. It's never been anything like that level over the last 5 years. And you can see over the last few weeks, we've really sort of seen it come
Mm.
down a little bit back to 2024 standards before, of course, the Labour government were elected. And Laura, on the right hand side, the number of people worried about their finances coming up.
Yeah, the highest in a very long time, kind of over a year there, I think. And that is that sensation of this sort of trouble ahead. I think we felt like maybe the clouds had just moved from kind of being totally chasing us, totally on our back, and now kind of feeling, oh, what's coming, feeling kind of quite stretched thin and worried about what could be in this budget.
Yeah, I think you're right, Henry. We just kind of got used to the rules of the game. It wasn't a great game, but we'd kind of just got on the right side of it.
Yeah.
And then there's talk of a new budget and things changing,
Mm,
and that created quite a lot of concern. Of course, the other context that we should remember here is we have lost a lot of faith in this government over recent times. And I think we've lost faith in their capabilities. We've also lost faith that they've actually got any money to sort any
mm,
problems out. So deflated with the Prime Minister. Starmer now is as bad as any point of like the Sunak kind of era.
mm,
We were very unhappy during that era, incidentally. And you can see from the day of that last budget last year, just a little notch up in terms of the number of people trying to cut back, reassess, be sensible with their money. This realization that, and I think she set it out, didn't she, back in 2024, broad shoulders for the
mm.
people. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think this sense of being pleased with how little I'm spending, there is really a sense of achievement there. That's kind of knuckling down, focusing what I can control, back in myself, making sure that I'm buffering what's around me, protecting kind of me and my kind of tribe. And I think there is a sense of a kind of a win in that. I'm gonna kind of grit in and play this game.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so let's now bring it to this budget. So, both last year's budget and this year's budget really anticipated, weren't they? Very, very long run into both of them and lots of leaks in the
Mm.
lead up to it. And so we can see the number of people definitely aware, kind of following, engaging with these two Labour budgets, bigger than any of those Conservative budgets, and all for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think this is a kind of sensation of apprehension, isn't it? Of bracing ourselves, of being kind of concerned of what is going to be in there. A sense of just expecting pain. It will be difficult. It's going to have some things in there we're not going to like that are going to feel hard. And I think it is that sense of we just sort of learned the game we were playing, and now the rules are kind of going to change. So I think, yeah, bracing.
Keeping an eye on things,
Mm,
bracing ourselves for it. Okay, so I want to start off with a headline reaction to this budget. And I think first and foremost, it's been quite hard to summarize this
mm.
because there are so many parts to it. It went on for an hour. It's really hard to take an overall message. I mean, even, us that have looked at this for a couple of days, it's a very long list of things, isn't it, to kind of put your head around. The net on the right hand side, and it's worth looking at that, is before we went into this budget, we were not thinking the UK was on the right tracks. But there's a nudge in the wrong direction, having heard and
Mm.
responded to this budget. But Laura, I want you to kind of try and describe, and you've used the Monopoly board. We love games because we've all played these games, so we know these moments. Use the Monopoly board to describe how people were feeling after
Yes.
this budget.
I think it always sounds a bit strange when we talk about sensations through games, but I think we all share these sensations, and they're often quite strong emotions when you're playing a game. So it's kind of useful. So I often come down to a game of Monopoly, and at this moment in time, the sensation that I want to kind of conjure for you for how the UK is feeling about this, we're kind of reasonably late in the game of Monopoly. There's quite a lot kind of building up on the board, quite a lot of actions already happened. We're feeling kind of quite squeezed. We have just had a go and missed one of those, super tax squares. So there's a sense of feeling kind of spared on that round. We are now looking down a whole row of kind of hotels and houses all built up and thinking we have got to roll a double six to avoid any of that. There's a sense that there's a kind of hit coming. And I think that's the sensation. It's kind of a quiet, anxious knot in our stomach.
I think you're right. So I think the right word, and you picked me up on it before, is spared today. That's the deferred pain,
Mm,
isn't it? But there's a hit coming, and that's the deferred progress.
mm,
And so I hate putting the word but in a sentence, any sentence actually, but I really try and train for it not to be in an insight sentence. But this pack is an exception because I think that's exactly what we think today, but
mm.
this but because it's so nuanced, they've had to kind of, dance on a tiny little dot to make this stack up. Okay, so let's look at that in a bit more detail. So net moving in the wrong direction. So I think the biggest kind
Mm,
of sense of being spared here and now is the fact that they didn't put up those big three
mhm.
taxes. It's a huge, I feel good about that. It's a good idea not to have done it. It spares us today. And we can see the direct impact of that on the middle chart there is in all of the weeks that have been tracking up to this budget, there was quite a big expectation that we were going to be immediately worse off after it. So we've heard that those three big taxes are not being moved. And so the sensation is, not quite as bad,
Mm.
initially spared, as you have said.
Yes,
Still a net bad, still net worse off, but
but it
not
could
quite
have
as
been
bad. Yeah,
worse.
yeah,
It could have been worse, and I think there is a sense that because tomorrow doesn't feel kind of vastly different, we have been persevering, we have been kind of gritting in, we can just kind of keep doing that. So yeah, absolutely a sensation of that could have gone
yeah.
worse.
So spared because of the big
Mm,
three taxes not moving. Of course, what they did instead of moving them today is that they moved that sort of freeze out for longer. And so you can headline this in their ability to kind of spend a bit of money now and they're going to claw it
mm.
back at a later date. Now, we quite like that as humans because basically we've been spared today, we've deferred the pain. But I think there is another layer to that, Laura, that actually a lot of people think freezing is good.
Yeah, I think this is interesting, isn't it? I mean, what we've got to remember is just how much cognitive strain from just general life most people are experiencing at any given moment. We think with our gut more than our brain, don't we? And so I think there are so many moments whereby freezing is good. If you freeze rail fares, if grocers are talking about freezing prices, that's, you're kind of quids in. And so sometimes that word is used and it's positive, and other times in this instance it's not. But our brain doesn't always kind of catch up with that, and I think that is kind of confusing. It's hard for people. The thresholds haven't changed, but I could pay more. Like how does that
Yeah.
work? And I think yeah, some of that sort of that word freeze I think is a difficult one for people. And you think, gosh, how can people slip up on it? But just look at those numbers. That sort of fog zone that you've drawn. It is huge. Two-thirds of people.
This is people expecting there to be sort of an okay
Yeah.
impact of it. Yeah, almost three-quarters of people, yeah, are in that zone. So we've got two things at play. We've got this immediate sense of sort of relief of being spared of the big taxes, and then it's sort of muddied by the fact that we actually think this freezing might be
Mm,
a good thing. Laura, there is a little bit of a but around this, though, isn't there? And the but is a bit like when we're given a discount on something. We like that the first time, but we hear it more and more and more. A brand's on discount. We don't believe it quite as much. And already we can see this impact of not quite believing that not hitting those headline or not changing the headline taxes is a good thing on the left-hand side there. So this time last year, more people thought it was good not to hit any of those headline taxes. And so just fewer people are kind of seeing it as good, seeing through the tactic there. And
yeah.
some people think, of course, not everybody, but some people think that actually they had to do that because they would have broken one of those pledges. And it would have been better just to break the pledges, take the pain today, and actually have a better tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely. A sense that they could be kind of boxed in by some of those promises and pledges for fear of being, you said you wouldn't do this, but really protecting their kind of reputation over the country kind of, I think feels, you can see that on that pie chart there, feels kind of wrong for people that
Yeah.
actually there could be a rethink. And actually, there was a rethink. As you say, we take the pain today, we wouldn't have to dance around.
We'd all know where we're
Some
at with
people
it. We'd know
wouldn't be
how
in
we
that
feel.
blindsided frozen thing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've set up our first but there, haven't we? We're spared
Mm,
today, but it's a bit troubling. And we know factually there's kind of bad stuff coming along in that stealthy
mm,
way. And so it plays out across so many different areas. So of course we welcome the proper freezing that's taken
mm.
place, on the energy, on all of those other things. The but is so many other things are going
Mm.
up that it's likely just a drop in the ocean.
Yeah, absolutely. We sort of tend to small games and gains in a losing game. I think there is a moment of feeling kind of slightly recognised, that struggle being recognised, but actually still squeezed. The grind kind of continues, and is there almost an expectation you should be able to cope better as a result? You've had some help. There's something on the table for you. I think that is a difficult sensation.
Yeah, so it's nice that they've done it, but probably it's not enough
Mm,
to kind of really make a difference. One thing that our kind of system one response is generally very favourable of is basically taking money from rich people. We see them as villains, and there's a lot of kind of villainous people on that
mm.
chart there. We tend to like the fact that they're doing this sort of thing. But I think, Laura, qualitatively, particularly, it doesn't take long for people to start saying, oh, but what happens if no rich people wants to live in the UK?
Yeah, well, what if they all leave? Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. That sort of system one thing of, yeah, like stick it to them,
yeah.
make them pay, send a message. That is very much a kind of first response, and it kind of feels good, kind of in the moment, especially as you say, sort of attacking some of those villains. But of course, thinking about it, the sort of future proofing, the growth, the kind of potential absolutely comes from those people being here, investing, building, modernising, innovating, and we want them to ultimately back Britain, back talent, back champion the UK abroad, and stay kind of rooted here. So it's again another sort of double edge.
Yeah. And then we're going to come to another double-edged, which is where we want the government to spend their
Mm,
money that they are raising. And of course, we like to believe that we want disadvantaged people to be held, but it turns out that not all disadvantaged people are equal. And so if we look on the left-hand side there about government priorities, we see unemployment very high on the list, and that translates into a lot of support around young people and employment and around minimum wages because I think that is directly about poverty and unemployment. But you move down the list, and do we want the government to invest in social services? We're much more conflicted on that, aren't we? Because I think there is a concern about the number of people who are receiving benefits. And so, Laura, when we look at that two-child benefit limit, that's much more 50-50.
much more 50-50 on the data. And I just think that this is really interesting. It speaks to why this study is so important and why blending qual and quant, I think, is so important because the numbers tell us it's 50-50. But of course, this is anonymized in a way that speaking amongst kind of friends and family and speaking kind of qualitatively isn't. And so I think it's a difficult one because we often say, of course, that's absolutely deserved. We can't think of children in that way. It's very important. It absolutely needs to happen. It's overdue. But the thinking behind it is often, really like, does it help the kids or does it help the parents? I work, I'm struggling, everyone else is here. And there is this sort of wrestling, I think, of those two sensations.
Yeah, and this is difficult, isn't it? Because I think it's that sense of dissonance again. So there's just not enough money to go around, so we don't like some of the trade-offs that have
Yeah.
got to be made. Of course, Conservatives play very much into that with
Mm.
that benefits street kind of headline. I think the other thing in terms of who kind of gets to pay and who gets some sort of relief is there is a sense within this budget of punishing people who throughout their life feel that they have done the right thing, they've been
Mm.
prudent, they've worked hard, they've generated their own money, they've not needed much support from the state. And this is sort of making a big hit on that kind of cohort of people.
Yeah, we've had a lot about kind of the strivers
Yeah.
feeling kind of squeezed, and I think this absolutely is that sensation of all. I've been sensible. I've done the right things. I'm ambitious, and now I feel like I'm being squeezed. Like I'm going to be worse off. Like I'm being a bit punished. That things I've worked for are getting kind of eaten away at, and there's something that feels kind of wrong in that for those people. Just feels unjust. I think is the
It isn't
sensation.
just, and
Someone's
it's
cheated at
weird,
Monopoly.
doesn't it? Because we've always been told it's good to have a
Yeah.
pension, it's good to
Mm,
save, and now it feels like you've been penalised
mm,
for doing the good thing. So we don't like that either.
mm,
And we can see it's so confusing for people to kind of summarise
mm.
their views on this. We want to sort of finish this off with the biggest but of all, and this is what's going to hit us over the long term, of course, is yeah, maybe it's a feeling that nothing terrible has happened. And we saw that earlier in terms of the number of people thinking they were going to be better or worse off. That improved a little bit immediately afterwards. But for certain, we believe that this is not setting us up for a better
Mm,
tomorrow, a better coming years. And really strong evidence of this. I mean, firstly, in the middle chart there, this is the ORB data, it's downgraded its growth prospects, not a better
mm,
tomorrow. But on our numbers, when we look at the number of people who thought the budget will help to rebuild the economy, create economic growth, restore economic stability, they were in negative numbers this time last year, but they have gone down
mm.
phenomenally after this budget. And so that is a very, very big but, because as humans are generally programmed to work hard today for a better tomorrow. That's why those near pensioners are very, very upset,
Mhm.
isn't it? We don't like this sensation also.
No, absolutely not. And there's already a sense that we're on the wrong track. People can already see this manifesting in where they live, how people are talking about, going up, going to work, their family life, their kind of businesses, all of that sort of thing. To think that now, oh, okay, we've just taken that down a notch. That feels really challenging.
Very, very challenging, yes. And so let's finish off by kind of looking forwards. What do we
Mm,
expect to happen over the next weeks and months, years? So I think the first thing is we have to assume that that stealth tax, because now it's so significant in terms of the impacts, will dawn on us. More
mm.
people who will have their eyes open to it. There'll be less fog, as we've called it, around the issue because we are moving into an area of very, very high taxation. And we can see that people are more concerned about that in relation to other things on the middle of chart. It's going to become more of an
Mm.
issue. And Laura, when you look at the cumulative impact there of the £20,000 income, that's £755, it's a lot of money.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not going to be
phenomenal.
not seen and
Yes,
felt.
absolutely. It is going to be felt, as you say. And I think that kind of sensation of the game feels kind of rigged, that it feels like kind of the work I'm doing isn't kind of paying, I think is absolutely going to just grow.
Yeah. And so, what do we expect consumers to actually do? Well, I think they're going to continue doing pretty much what they're doing at the moment. And so, I think first and foremost, they're going to continue to think hard, reassess, make changes. The chart on the left hand side, if you cast your eyes to the sort of 2024 period, see how it steeply went up after the last budget.
Mm,
I think we're going to see another one of
mm.
those inflection points. Huge numbers of people continuing to reassess. And what do they reassess and do? Well, they cut back and they save.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that sense of kind of we're on our own now. Like that focus of control being kind of me, my tribe. How can I protect myself? How can I buffer myself is only kind of going to grow as a motivation.
Yeah. Okay, final thoughts then on who does it net out to
Mm,
be the worst for this budget in terms of their kind of visceral reaction to it. So, left hand side, it was a fair budget. We've got negative figures across most of the age
mm,
groups. I think the thing to really think about is the change year
mm.
on year. And we're seeing very, very big changes in the 45 to 64. And that is the group, of course, I think, that are trying to do all of the staving, the stabilizing, sort of post children area of their life to have a better tomorrow in retirement.
Mm.
And all of this kind of makes them feel very, very vulnerable.
Yeah, I think absolutely. There's a sense that, that one of the things we hear a lot in the quad community, contributed so much. There's so many moments that they've weathered and kind of kept going and been sensible. And now that things are making that hard. I think the other thing about this group is that sense of deferred pain. Actually, that's in reconfiguring the dreams I've got in my head and what's keeping me going right now. That has
Yeah.
really changed things.
Yeah, they've got no time to
No.
readjust, have they? Yeah,
Hmm.
so very, very brutal, I
Mm.
think, on that age group. Slightly better instantly, a bit of a positive in the oldest age group there. Of course, they've been very doomy, I think, about what Labour might do to pensions. They didn't do it, and
Mm.
so backed off a little bit. Laura, it is a confusing picture, and I think we'd all get that sensation when you ask somebody, what do you think about it? They kind of go, like, I don't know, there's so
Yeah.
much, like, it's so confusing. Try and sum it up for us. I think deferred pain, deferred progress does nicely sum it up, but bring that to life for us.
There is this sensation of having been spared right
Yeah.
now. There is a sense that some elements of squeeze have been recognized, and those small steps are nice, but it is a drop in the ocean, and some of the investment in welfare does create division. Ultimately, we can't get away from the sense that it feels like there's trouble ahead, that it has stalled our economic growth, and that does not feel good. We didn't have momentum, and now the promise of that has been changed again. And I think in terms of what to watch, I do think that group are just critical, aren't they? That 45 to 65s. It's a difficult and interesting period in life anyway, and those movements that we've just seen are huge. It's really recalibrated their view of kind of what's possible. And I think more in the short term, what to watch. Well, Christmas was already looking on the kind of tight side, have a wholesome, nice Christmas without overspending. Well, now we're thinking kind of buffer ourselves up, kind of
I think, yeah.
keep ourselves safe. So that lower spend is just
Mm.
going to solidify.
Possibly slightly less than if they put up those three big
Yes.
taxes, but there's not any cheer attached to this. Absolutely. I think final thought on the 45 to 54s, Laura,
Mm.
is of course they often have 25-year-old children, and that's a really vulnerable age group, I think, at the moment with the
Yeah.
economic situation.
We often talk about them as a group that they've just got so many
Yeah,
uh,
it's always a difficult.
the
Well,
pressure
midlife
point.
crisis, it's real.
Well, thanks very much for joining us today. We hope you found it useful. We're going to send round a copy of that report so that you've got it and you can share it across your businesses. It is a sort of choppy time, so I thought a nice kind of next step for anyone listening today. Hopefully, you can enter it into the chat or the Q&A. Just a yes, please. If you want to see any of our tasters, we release a State of the Nation and a Mood of the Nation both weekly and monthly, which really helps people navigate some of the change that's happening and make sure they go into their businesses kind of armed with the actual kind of facts of where the nation sits and how that's likely to impact some of their decisions over the coming weeks, months, years. And we also have a kind of piece that takes an even bigger step back rather than looking at what's kind of coming and changing. It looks at what's always true. And I think at a time whereby we're seeing businesses plan far in advance and differently, something like the playbook is really making waves. I think it's a kind of annual kind of roadmap of where people are likely to be at any given time, the big sensations they're yearning for businesses to activate against. If you want either of those tasters, just say yes, please, and I'll make sure you get them.
Very good.
Good, isn't
Excellent.
it?
Yeah. So
Good
we
for a
are off
Friday.
to our Christmas party.
I know we are off to our Christmas party, which is fancy dress.
And fairly hilariously, we are the Monopoly board.
Oh, listen, if that says you're not allowed to tell anyone.
Oh no, no, no.
Anyway, that's
They're
the
on the bus. They're on
secret.
the bus. Right.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed listening to us, and we will catch you soon. Have a
And
good
it's a
weekend.
yes in the chat if someone
Yes, in the
asks.
chat. Yes, in the
Okay.
chat. And we've got
Okay.
some coming in, which is brilliant.
Very good.
Great. See you all soon.
Bye bye.